This is episode 2 of the podcast, and we're joined by guest Jeremy Jesch. He happens to be my father.
And my father.
Yes.
Basically my father, pretty much.
And so you're a teacher.
Correct.
Newly this year, you're a teacher.
Just this year, yeah.
Coach for
A coach for
11 years.
11
about.
years.
Yeah.
Then
Pretty much raised us through basketball.
feels that way sometimes.
How long ago was that when you first started?
When you were in kindergarten and
coaching for like 11
so-
years.
Yeah.
And you've been all over the place. You lived in how many states? Like 4, 5, 6, something like that?
Lived in Colorado, Nevada, North Dakota, Minnesota.
I didn't even know that was true.
Yeah, went to high school in Nevada, grade school in Colorado.
Where were you? Someone asked you where you were born. I had no idea.
I was born in North Dakota.
That's what I thought. Okay.
That's probably
So you're from North Dakota. Didn't know where you were born. To Nevada?
No,
Or South Dakota?
North Dakota to Colorado, back to North Dakota, to Nevada, back to North Dakota, to Minnesota.
Why is that just like the middle ground? Why North Dakota? Just
Because that's where I was born. That's my hometown.
Sure.
That's where I'm from.
Go back.
You know. You'll understand one day when you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just been locked up in Minnesota my whole life. That's alright.
Yeah.
Was Nevada your favorite? What was your favorite?
No. I would probably say Colorado, but North Dakota still feels like home.
Yeah, that's natural.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah. It's so empty there, though. It's kind of just like prairie land. Like,
I know, but that's what I like about it. Like, when I first moved here, it was the trees. I got claustrophobic from all the trees.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I wasn't, like, felt like I couldn't breathe.
yeah, you see like 100 miles in North
Right,
Dakota.
because in North Dakota, it just goes on forever. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nevada, though, you really like the warm, though. Like, you'd think it'd be Nevada. Where'd you like? Wasn't it in like the desert area, kind of Nevada?
Yeah, northern Nevada. Yeah. But it gets cold at night in the desert.
Yeah.
Wait, so what? Can you explain to me the period of time, like where? Because I know you said you went to grade school in North Dakota, correct?
Part of grade school, and then moved to Colorado for 5th grade, and then back to North Dakota until my sophomore year, and then to Nevada for my sophomore year, and then back again.
Then you went to college in North Dakota, right?
And then college in North Dakota.
Uh,
University of North Dakota.
yep.
Yeah. Fighting Hawks.
I was
That's
about
still
to
hard to
say,
say.
yeah.
It's still hard to say. Yeah.
And what did you technically go to college for?
My degree is in natural sciences. So biology, chemistry, physics.
Okay. So you're definitely qualified for your engineering job.
Yeah.
I feel like it. Well, actually, some days I don't feel like it, but yeah.
Yeah. And you've been teaching for technically how long? You've been hired
technically,
for how long?
Since the end of August. So what is that? So September, October, November, 3 months.
Yeah.
But I did substitute teach for a semester.
And you
Yeah.
had no time to prepare for like the class or like what you were gonna be doing, like ordering.
Yeah,
your
not
stuff,
really,
like-
but yeah, not really. No.
I'd say it's going well.
Yeah, it seemed like even like the first week and everything was just like it's pretty like solid. Like,
But yeah, it's hard because I think that there's definitely days where you feel like you're crushing it, but then there's definitely days where you feel like you're failing. But there's been students that have said thank you and you're doing a good job, and that means a lot. And I feel like kids should do that more often with teachers. I know that we've talked about it before too. That I think students in class sometimes forget that teachers have things going on too, and that their lives aren't perfect.
Yeah.
But yet teachers are expected to show up with a smile on their face every day and
Yeah.
try to bring everybody else back up.
Yeah.
When sometimes I feel like it would be helpful if kids would try to be that for the teachers sometimes too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because teachers go through hard times too, and teachers have things going on in their lives too. So we should just all recognize that about each other. You know, because we say that about kids, right? If a kid is maybe not behaving that day, we're like, well, okay, they have things going on in their lives, and the teachers do too. So
Yeah.
that's what be my advice to you, is to just maybe tell a teacher that once in a while. You know, thank you for doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because it does mean a lot. I had a student tell me that last week, and it meant way more than that student probably knows. You know, he just popped his head in the door and said, I just want to let you know you're doing a great job. And it meant so much to me at that point, because at that point, I did not feel like I was at that point of the day. And maybe he sensed that, I don't know, but he made a point to say it, and that meant a lot to me, so.
Well, and you've only been teaching for 3 months, and you're still, like, you're feeling like maybe I'm not doing so good sometimes. So I feel like bringing that into a teacher that is feeling completely burnt out after the past year of COVID would mean a lot more to those teachers than people would recognize.
Right, because I think that one of the things that maybe surprised me a little bit is that that's a feeling that teachers have for as long as they teach, right? I mean, at least the teachers that I've talked to, a lot of them feel that way sometimes, you know, that they're just not doing a great job, and because it's hard, you know, because it's all based on the kids. You know, because A, you want them to learn something, and B, you want them to have fun doing it, because you want them to want to come to your class, right? You don't want kids dreading coming to your class, and so you try to make it so that they want to be there.
Okay. What would you say the hardest part about teaching is, like, if you're come class?
The hardest part about teaching?
Because I feel like it's very, like, socially in society, I feel like it's actually, like, very accepted that teaching is, like, very hard. And, like, yeah, it's underpaid. So, like, what do you say, like, the biggest...
I would say the hardest thing about teaching, and again, put this into context.
Yeah.
Because I'm not someone that's been teaching for 25 years.
Exactly.
I'm somebody that's been teaching for 3 months.
Yeah.
And so if you ask somebody that's been teaching for 20 plus years, they'll probably give you a different answer.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
But for me, I think it's just recognizing and understanding that you have kids from so many different backgrounds, and kids that have less than ideal circumstances at home, and sometimes you don't know which kids are which, you know, and trying to figure that out and trying to connect with those kids, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to connect with kids because you feel like if you can connect with them, then you can maybe get through to them, and you can teach them easier if you can get, you know, if you can just make that connection. But some kids it's harder than others, and so I mean that's what I try and do. Is I feel like if I can connect with you, then you're probably more willing to listen to me.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and maybe that's not true. I don't know, if you ask a veteran teacher, they might have a completely different answer. So that's just my take as a new teacher.
And on the flip side of that, what would you say is the easiest part of teaching?
Or
the most enjoyable?
Yeah.
The most enjoyable thing about teaching is the same thing as the most enjoyable thing about coaching, is you just get to spend time around young people. And I can't say it enough. It's being able to spend your day around young people makes you feel young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really does. And knowing and understanding, because we talk about it all the time, right? Like what it's like to be a teenager in 2021, right? And I just enjoy being around kids. But that's why I've coached since you were in kindergarten, because I've just always enjoyed that. And it's even better now, all these years later, because I have a relationship with all of you guys, right? That had it not been for coaching, I wouldn't have that relationship with all of you, right?
Sure.
You know, so because I like it when players or students come to me with problems and ask me for guidance and things like that. It means a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so.
We talked about it a few times maybe, but like after me and Nick or whatever like move out, did you still plan on like teaching and coaching, or like would you like plan on going with that after like we moved out?
After you guys are gone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't do
I don't
that.
really want to think about it. It's definitely going to be a sad day. Well, you guys know this, because what have I always said is my favorite day of the year?
Last day of school.
The last day of school. And that was when I was not a teacher.
Yeah.
Right? I've always said it was the last day of school, because summers were always great. We always had a house full of kids, and we always had that around us. And so when that's done, I don't know, I feel like I'll double down with that stuff maybe, you know, because I won't have it here anymore. So I'll have to go to school and coaching and things like that to be able to find that. Because that's really what I enjoy doing in life, is just being around that and being a part of that, to being able to guide young people and help young people. And maybe the day will come when people stop coming to me for those things. And when that happens, then maybe I won't find joy in it anymore. But, you know, I appreciate that about, you know, when people come to me with those things. Yeah.
So then in engineering, there's different fields of it, obviously. There's like audio engineering, civil engineering, stuff like that. So like what field of engineering you say is your favorite?
What field of engineering do I feel is my favorite?
Can you explain what fields are too? Because
There's so many of them. I mean, there's
feel like there's-
aerospace engineering, there's civil engineering, there's structural engineering, there's chemical, there's electrical, there's all these different
Well, like for context,
fields.
what do you learn
But like for
now?
me, like for us, so this year for you guys is Intro to Engineering Design, which is basically just learning to use CAD design and things like that. And then from there, we move into aerospace engineering. But the great thing about the curriculum that we're using now is that I really have a lot of leeway to decide what that curriculum is going to look like,
Yeah.
which allows me to pick things that I'm interested in, which is why like the junior high classes are doing automation and robotics right now, so they're
Yeah,
building
that's-
robots. And the senior high will be going to aerospace engineering next semester, but you have to have that engineering design part of it first.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my junior high students will come in and see that you guys are using the 3D printer and you're 3D printing all these models and prototypes, and they'll say, "Oh, when do we get to use a 3D printer?" And then I'll have the senior
Yeah.
high class come in and say, "Oh, when do we get to build robots?"
Yeah.
Right? And so it's because they're both cool. I think they're both
Yeah.
cool, and I know that sometimes it can get a little bit daunting and sometimes it can get a little bit boring, but it is, like the whole Fusion CAD program, that's an important part of it. And not only that, it's a very useful skill going forward.
Yeah.
If you want to get, as far as in the job market when you get out of school, being able to do that is pretty important. So
Yeah, like for me at least, like the engineering stuff, like for me, it's probably like my most like interesting class, and like I feel like has the most potential. Like
I completely agree.
like it actually has like real applicability to like job in the future.
Well,
Like not that
the
English stuff
houses-
doesn't, but like
CNC
it's directly
machine.
like
You're getting like $35 an hour straight out. Like you can be straight out of high school knowing how to run a CNC machine. You can make $35+ an hour.
yeah.
Well, and that's why.
Can you describe a CNC machine first?
Well, so first of all, the class motto is we can't expect to have a generation that can solve real world problems without giving them real world problems to solve. So that's kind of the basis of the class and what I try to model it after, and to show you that there are real world applications. Because what I kept hearing, because before I was a teacher, I spent a lot of time at the school
Yeah.
and heard from kids all the time that, well, when are we ever going to use this? We're never going to use this. Why do we have to learn this? And so kind of one of my goals going in was to show you how you're going to use it. So teaching you things without really knowing that's what you're learning, right? And there's lots of ways to do that. And so that's why it's all project based. But,
Yes.
what was the
CNC machine, because like I know like the base what it is, but like I don't know directly like.
So the CNC
what is
milling
this?
machine is essentially the same thing as the 3D printer. The only difference is the 3D printer kind of makes something out of nothing, if you will, because it takes plastic filament and heats it up and melts it, somewhat like a hot glue gun, I suppose,
Yeah.
right? And it melts it and puts it into whatever you told the CAD program to make it into. The CNC milling machine is different because you take a piece of something and the milling machine cuts that down. So, as you remember from class, additive and subtractive, right? So if you think of like a 3D printer as more of an additive process, and a CNC milling machine would be more of a subtractive process. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So you just put like, is it like metal that it uses?
Yeah, what
Yep.
materials can you use?
Aluminum.
We'll be using aluminum for the
But, like,
most part.
For like what materials can you use? Like
It depends on the milling machine. Some of them can cut through steel, some of them do aluminum. The one we have will cut through steel. So
That's
I believe,
crazy.
don't quote me on it, but I believe it's half-inch steel it cuts through. So
and like what are they most used for? Like
machine shops use them a lot, but they're used for so many different
Like
applications.
part
like-
manufacturing.
Yeah, yep. They use them for everything now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, like
Makes
Hunter's
sense.
dad, correct me if I'm wrong, but his dad uses CNC machines to make parts for rocket ships, right? For sorry,
For
not
guns.
parts.
For guns.
I was
It
gonna
used
say,
to be
like,
for
he makes
rockets, I think.
makes rockets.
Maybe.
which is what we're going to be doing next semester. Is we'll
That's
be
crazy.
actually
Yeah.
so when we build rockets, we'll be 3D printing the parts for the rockets. So you'll design and test and 3D print a nose cone for a rocket, and then you'll have to put that through a flight simulation program, because obviously we don't want your
Yeah.
rocket to go 2 feet in the air, turn sideways, and shoot back at the school. So we'll have to-
Wait, we'll be shooting actual rockets though?
Yep, correct. Yep.
And
No,
design
they
it?
have the boxes on the top of the shelves that say, like, caution. Very
Oh, yeah,
flammable
yeah,
rocket fuel.
yeah.
Or something. It might actually say caution rocket fuel on the
That's
side
so
of it.
sick.
Yeah.
Have like a launching day, whatever. That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Last day of school, that'd be sick. That's a good
Launch
idea.
rockets the last
Someone's
day.
gonna think Cold War is coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get 'em on.
Yeah. No, I hope it's fun. I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? Because if it's fun, then you'll get kids to want to go to school. And I'm fortunate enough, though, to teach in a field that you can make fun. Right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to make STEM class fun because it's all hands-on and you get robots and rockets and you get all that kind of fun stuff to deal with.
We're in history and literature, you're just reading out of textbooks and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Which some people think is great fun.
I guess
Very
some people do
minority. I feel
enjoy it.
like
Yeah.
I feel it's a very minority of people that
Yeah.
find that fun though.
Yeah.
Like in regards to like the learning like being applicable to like normal life, what do you think about like the education system right now? Like and can you answer that? Would you be comfortable answering that? Not in
what do I feel about
in
the
general.
education system? I think
Do you think it's okay? It's obviously not perfect, but like, what do you think about it?
Do you
Like,
think it's to the point where it should be considering the amount of the direction we're going as a society to be more technologically advanced?
like, what do you think is good about it? What do you think's bad?
yes, I do. I think that going back to the argument of what am I going to use this for, and this why do I have to do this, and these, there are places where you decide when you're 10 years old or 6 years old, whatever it is, what your career path is going to be. And I disagree. I don't even think you should have to declare a major your freshman year in college, because I think as an 18-year-old kid, you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life. And so I think that you need to be well-rounded, and to be well-rounded, you have to take history and you have to take English and you have to take all of those things so that you're a well-rounded individual when you get to college. And so, because when I was 18 years old, I would never have believed you if you would have told me that I would be a teacher at this point in my life, right? But the only reason that was able to happen was because I had that education earlier on in my life, right? If I had never gotten that education. So to me, it offers flexibility to be able to change and adapt and do different things as you get older, where if you don't do that, then I feel like you're a little bit, your hands are tied a little bit more. But I feel like the education system is a bit antiquated, but I don't know that it's anybody's fault. I just think that change takes time.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I think that, still, and we see it all the time, right? Like expecting little kids to sit down in a chair for 6 hours a day and get mad at them when they don't it's hard for those kids to do that, and is that really the best way to get them to absorb information? Is there a better way to get them to absorb information? And there are people that are much smarter than I am when it comes to that stuff that could better answer that question, I think. But I think that, for instance, I feel like nowadays we should be like teaching kids about investing and finances and what a credit score means and what being in debt means and how to manage your financial status and those types of things. I don't think we do enough of that, because that's important too, to
I've heard a lot of
know
people
and
say
understand
that.
those things. Because what happens, and again, keep in mind, I went to college a long time ago, but when I went to college, in the student union, there would be tables set out with people offering credit cards. And not only did they give you a credit card, they gave you a free sweatshirt, or they gave you a gift certificate, or they gave you something to just sign up for the credit card. So then all of a sudden, as an 18-year-old kid, you have a pocket full of credit cards. Well, you were never taught the kind of damage that can do going forward, right? And then all of a sudden, you're now 23 and your credit score is destroyed and you don't even know what happened, right? And so, I feel like we should do a better job at teaching kids and preparing kids for that going forward, because it's important. That stuff is important, and it can have
Yeah.
long-term ramifications if you mishandle it. You know, so.
And you are also invested in crypto and some stocks.
Correct.
No NFTs, right?
No NFTs.
That's
no.
more my thing.
That's
Yeah.
more your thing.
Yeah.
NFTs.
I'm not opposed to NFTs. It's just someone from my generation. It's a little bit harder to wrap. I mean,
Yeah.
I have been able to through research, and I've been able to finally wrap my brain around it and putting it in terms that I can understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that for me, crypto just makes more sense. You know, because I can find a way to explain crypto that makes sense to me, right? Because
Yeah.
like cryptocurrency is, it's just a combination of numbers and letters, right? That's all it is. It's just a digital currency that is a combination of numbers and letters. But it's no different than a dollar bill, right?
Yeah.
Every single dollar bill or anything printed in this country has a serial number on it. So from the day it leaves the mint, they know exactly where that dollar bill is. It gets traced to from there to the bank, and from the bank wherever it goes, the central bank and your local bank and the government all knows exactly where that dollar bill is, right? And so it's just another kind of currency to me. So I can wrap my brain around that. But
Yeah.
Could you go into depth in what a cryptocurrency is? Because I think a lot of people know what it is, but like they don't know what it is. You know what
Yeah, I don't really
like. I understand the concept of cryptocurrency, but like what's the blockchain, like stuff like that. Like I've heard, but like I use these words are tossed around a lot, but
so, and I think, I mean, you might be, you know, so correct me if I'm wrong, but so my understanding of it anyway, in the research that I've done, is so cryptocurrency one is what I just talked about. It's just think about it as that it's no different than a dollar bill. It's the same premise as every other currency on the planet. The difference is, if you remember when I was talking about what happens to a dollar bill, how it goes into the bank, and the mint, you know, where that dollar bill is made, they have a record of it, and then when it goes to the bank, they have a record of it, and the government has a record of it, and everybody has a record of that, because you know those when you put a stack of bills in a bill counter, and it quickly goes through all those bills and counts them, and then puts a band around them and says this is $1,000 or whatever it is. It scans those serial numbers as it's going through there, right? So it knows where all of those are at all times.
Yeah.
So crypto coins, cryptocurrency is the same thing, right? And a blockchain is just a process by which those things are, because there is no banks, there is no middleman, right?
it's decentralized.
And it's decentralized, and so the blockchain is, I don't know what it is, probably millions of computers by now, millions of servers that check, recheck, and recheck, and recheck all of those transactions all the time, right?
And just constantly updating it, constantly tracking the flow of,
Right.
which is why it costs the gas fees for Ethereum, because it costs money to process things on the blockchain, because it takes time and it holds other things up in the process of that time it takes. So you have to pay a fee to take up that time, which is a
Right.
gas fee.
For whoever's doing that, right? And they have to make money on it, because if they didn't make money on it, then people wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
right? The only reason that people have these warehouses full of servers is because they're getting paid to do it, right? And not only that, but the electrical bill is enormous to run those things. So to me, I think that it's inevitable. It's coming. I don't think you're going to stop it. I think once we pass the point, and you may or may not know this, but at one point in time in this country, every dollar we had was backed by gold, right? It had to be.
Yeah.
And it is no longer like that. And so now, because everybody says, well, where does the value come from? Because there are some, it's like PAX G, I believe it is a cryptocurrency where it is backed by gold. Every single coin is backed by gold.
And what you said about the dollars being backed by gold, you could only mint the amount of money that was in gold in the Federal Reserve, correct?
Correct. And so the argument was that, well, that's what gives money value. So our currency had value, where's the value from cryptocurrency? But that argument is gone now because the dollar doesn't anymore either, right? It's the same premise.
Well, could you also argue what's the value of gold? You know,
because it's just all people's idea.
Well,
money would have no value if people didn't say it had value.
Well, but gold has value because there's a limited amount of it.
There's also limited
That's what
money
gives
though,
it
too.
value. No, there's not, because you just make more.
Yeah, but then the inflation goes up and the
Correct.
price changes, so technically there is.
Exactly.
Correct?
Exactly.
And that's
exactly what's happening though.
Yeah.
Is that they just make more, and so.
Yeah, I feel where'd that happen? I feel like Germany.
No, it was like Zimbabwe or something. Where like a bag of bread was like $3 trillion.
I think that was in Russia.
No, it was.
No, but there was one point in Germany after World War II,
Yeah,
I
they
believe,
printed a lot of money.
where they had to print so much money to recover that $1 was worth like a 45 millionth of a.
Right.
And
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even understand that concept. Why would you print a bunch of money?
because
I feel like
in
it would
theory it would work, but then there's just so much money floating around that
Yeah.
someone making $10,000, they have $100,000, but it's still only worth $10,000.
Right.
So do you think like cryptocurrencies will be like eventually like the universal currency?
Yes.
And
Because
which one? If you could predict such a thing.
I don't know that the one is here. Maybe it's not even here yet. I don't know. It
Yeah,
seems like
yeah.
it might be.
I hear a lot of
But-
people say Bitcoin.
Well, Bitcoin.
It's been so
That's
high for
starting
so
to come
long.
Yeah.
up because countries are adopting that as a legal currency now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one that everybody's like, even Visa right now is trying to find a way to use Ethereum. So, and the reason that Ethereum has that is because Ethereum has the blockchain that, like for NFTs, whatever all of that stuff is, you have to use Ether. You have to.
Oh,
You can't
that
use
makes
Bitcoin
sense.
to buy an NFT. You have to use Ether. All gas fees are paid in Ether.
Yep.
Right, so you have to have Ether in order to make those transactions, and so, I mean, to me, I'm a big Ethereum believer,
Yeah.
but as Bitcoin goes, so do the other cryptos, right? Also remembering that there's a difference between a crypto coin and a crypto token, right? Those are two very different things.
I didn't know this. What's the
Yeah,
difference?
what's
So also like a crypto coin is like Bitcoin
Yeah.
is something that was built from the ground up. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money to make a crypto coin, where the crypto token, like an NFT, you can create in minutes. You know, NFT is a great example of a token.
It was
Oh.
called NFT, stands for non-fungible token,
Token.
which means it cannot be replicated.
Right, but there are crypto tokens too.
Would a token just be like? You ever heard like those scandals of like influencers like making a coin or a token?
They do it, and
Would
they're
that be
tokens.
would that be a token?
Those are tokens.
Yeah, and they were just like, what's it called? Like, they pump and dump, whatever. They would just
They
put
would
money into it.
drive, because
Yeah, can you
there's
explain
limited
that?
numbers, so
Yeah.
they pump a ton of their money in. Then outside, like onlookers would see it, and like fans in most cases would see the price going up, and the influencer telling them buy this, buy this. Then as soon as more people start buying it, the price goes up and up. The person that started it makes a ton of money, but they sell all of theirs, it dumps,
Yeah.
just completely crashes, and people lose a bunch of money. But the
And-
person who started it makes a ton of money.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
really not that hard if you think about it. You invent a token real quick, then you make some fancy website to promote it.
Yeah.
You get a couple of influencers to talk about it, and all of a sudden it goes through the roof.
Get
and
them
somebody's
in on
making
it.
a lot of money.
Like Tyga or whatever, he did his album, right? Was it Tyga?
Tory Lanez.
Tory Lanez, yeah. He did a like an actual like musical album on an NFT, right? It was NFT.
It was an NFT. He released them for like $1 a piece, sold a limited number of them, and made
What-
$1 million in like
Is it Diamond?
that's
Is
really
Diamond the
nice.
highest like certification for an album?
yeah,
There's
10 million copies sold.
Yeah, so he sold all those in 57 seconds and got like certified platinum for his album.
He sold 1 million.
That's
and he got
very
certified
smart.
platinum in like. a
And he
minute.
made all that money too.
But then the thing with NFTs is that you can put royalties on them when you put them out, so that when someone takes it and sells the NFT you put out, you get 15% of their sale.
Yeah.
So you're essentially making money as long as your NFTs are getting traded.
That's crazy.
That's like
Wow.
crazy smart.
And the other people that buy it are also making money, which is why NFTs are so powerful. Because so many people can make money. The creator, the seller, and then essentially the buyer, because then the buyer can sell it and make money off of it, but then all the while the people that started it are still making money off of it.
Yeah, like even like $1 for an album, like still that's like a very low number. Like why wouldn't you buy that?
But
album?
he's making 15%.
Yeah,
he's
but then
making
you look
15
at him
cents
and
off
he's
of
making-
every single one of the million albums being sold.
Right. I mean, and I feel like cryptocurrency or the Ethereum blockchain is going to change a lot of things. The music industry is one of them because artists don't now need the backing of a record label anymore to put something out. And I mean, the internet kind of did that too, but you still, you know, back in my day, you still needed radio play, right? You guys don't need that anymore. But so now, you know, you can have an artist that is completely funded by its own fans, right?
That's
you don't need a record label anymore. The fans can do it. And not only that, the fans can then profit from it.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you do it that way?
That's crazy.
You know?
And then it ties into, they do like such crazy things with NFTs. Like one of them, I forget what it's called, but they did like the buying, like the funding of it, where people like did the initial mint of things where they got their like citizenship, and they bought a big plot of land in Wyoming, and they're gonna build an actual town with the money from that. And then there's another one where they just had like a digital house, but you bought a real house with it. And so there's just a bunch of stuff like that happening.
Aren't they doing that with the metaverse?
Yeah.
You just told me something
Like
about
you buy virtual land, but then you get that plot of land in the metaverse that no one else can have. But then you can sell that plot of land, and then the metaverse is essentially just like a community of people coming together that can interact with each other. Like it's just virtual real life.
Right,
Yeah,
I feel like that's what's going to happen. I feel like you're going to put on your VR goggles, and because you're going to call your friend that's in New Jersey and say, hey, what's up, you want to go have coffee? And they'll be like, yeah, I'll be there in a half an hour. And you'll put on your goggles and you'll go there, and you'll have your avatar there, and their avatar will be there, and you'll sit down and have a real conversation with them.
That's so interesting and terrifying.
And you have your
Yeah.
omnidirectional treadmill or whatever, where
It's
you can like walk, you're actually walking, and then they're making the touch sensitive gloves for VR, where if you grab a water bottle, it'll feel like you're picking up a water bottle.
It's just like Ready Player One. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's going to be like.
That's crazy. That's actually
That's what everyone's
can be a
comparing
thing.
it to. Is that's going to be very similar to that.
That's actually crazy.
I know, but the crazy thing is that technology is exponential in its growth. And so if you look at where technology was when I was your age, which was not where it is today, let's just say that, and how far it's come since then, by the time, the growth of technology from when I was your age to where I am now, right, pales in comparison to the advances in technology from when you guys are this age until you're my age.
Yeah.
Like that leap is going to be way larger than it was.
Even
And
in the last 16
imagine
years.
where it's going to be for you guys in 30 years.
That's crazy.
Right? I mean, the metaverse, it's only the beginning. The metaverse, cryptocurrency, all of those things. To me, it's just the beginning. Like, we haven't even touched the surface.
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, thinking about like having all my significance and the importance be in something that's just virtual.
Yeah, but you don't notice it though. You don't notice it. That's the thing.
I know.
Is because it happens gradually over time. Like, I can't remember when. You'd think you would, right? You'd think that you would remember when the first time I made a phone call on a cell phone was, right? Because when I was your age, we didn't have cell phones, right? We still had the phone. We still had the phone that was connected to the wall with the cord on it, and so you'd think I would remember those things, right? You would think I would remember the first time I got on the internet.
Yeah.
Right? I don't remember the first time I ever got on the internet, but you'd think it would have been a big deal, but it really wasn't, because it happened slowly and gradually over time.
Well,
right?
Would you think, since it's exponentially growing, that there'd be a certain point where like so much new stuff is coming out where it would cause that shock?
But it is already though, because it's I shouldn't say that. You know, like the electric cars, right? It's not like, because the Nissan Leaf, those things have been around for a long time. We've had electric cars for a long time.
Almost as long as we've had motored cars.
Right, but it's not a surprise now that we have them, right? In the numbers that we have, it's just, to me, it's almost, it has to get to a level of acceptance.
Yeah.
And once it gets to a big enough level of acceptance, that's when it moves forward. Because people aren't going to make electric cars unless they can make money off of electric cars. It's the only way you're going to produce them, right? And so you have to wait until people are willing to buy them. And even right now, that is getting there, but there's a line where, like right now, I think one of the biggest problems with electric cars is you can stop at a gas station, you can fill your gas tank in 5 minutes and you're on your way, right? With an electric car, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So there's that barrier,
Especially
right?
in Minnesota, like we're
Right.
really good at
So right now, you see electric cars driving around, but they're not everywhere, right? That's one of those barriers. Like once they fix that barrier, then does the number of electric cars on the road double? Does it triple? Because, the biggest barrier used to be price.
Yeah.
Right? It was price. It was way more expensive for a little tiny car that didn't go very far. Right? Well, now they brought the price down to where it's equivalent or cheaper. Right?
Well, where I just saw something with someone who bought a Tesla Model 3 or something, and it was like $60,000, but then they had a like $3,000 down payment. They had a certain amount of credit that they had on it, and then their trade-in value was like $50,000, and it ended up like the actual total cost that they spent on the car was like $7,000.
That's crazy.
Right, because you get
electric
incentives through the government for
Yeah.
buying electric cars.
But, and another problem, like you said, with the charging stations, I think in the new infrastructure plan that they're trying to put in, you need a special building license to be able to build and connect to the power grid with electric vehicle.
Wait, so you're saying
So like,
it'd be harder to get charging?
it'll be harder to put in charger. Like for like Tesla, they'd have to get special licenses for those places, I believe, from what I understand.
But Tesla has recently opened up their charging stations to other models, not just Tesla, other makes.
Oh, yeah.
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 In regards to technology, what do you think about like Elon Musk and going to Mars? Like, do you think we'll go to Mars by the end of our life?
Yes.
I think we will have a person on Mars before 2030.
That's crazy.
Well, because remember when
That's-
Neuralink got announced a few years ago? The chip that goes in your brain?
Yeah. What?
Okay.
Yeah, Neuralink is crazier than going to Mars.
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah.
It
it's-
links.
it's
There's like
very
little
cool.
tiny, like smaller, like thinner than a strand of hair, like wires that connect to like the neurons or the receptors in your brain, and they essentially just give you like the impulses of doing something. So in theory, you could have like a quadriplegic, have your Neuralink, have chips in your legs and your arms, and it would send the stimulation from your brain to those chips, and you could move.
Well, because that's all it is. Currently, that's all it is. It's like it's small electrical impulses that
Yeah.
goes from your brain to whatever you need to move. That's what.
But then again, with Neuralink, in theory, since you could like essentially connect it to the internet, you could control your TV with it,
right.
I've heard about
which is like
this.
the next step to
Yeah.
like like at that point we're a cyborg.
The thing with that,
Like you're basically a cyborg at that point.
Think about connecting Neuralink and like a metaverse or something like that. Like at that point, you're pretty much just living in virtual life.
And then eventually, when you get those, like how they're trying to make contact lenses that are like virtual reality or like
That'd be dope.
mixed reality. If you could connect your Neuralink to that, you could just like have your contact lenses and no headset and be in the metaverse.
That's
Yeah, I mean
crazy.
that's where I feel like we need to
Slow down.
take a deep breath a little bit. I mean, I'm all for it, but at the same time, connecting with nature and those things is
Yeah.
important too.
Because like
Yeah.
even in the however many years that we've had the internet, and even the 14 years that we've had cell phones, people's social skills have been just completely going through.
Well, not
through
even
the floor.
that, but just the levels of depression, anxiety, and stuff
I
like that.
don't know though. I mean, I hear that argument, but
What do you think that's correlated?
well, it's just. I think it's so much different now because, when I grew up, you were friends with the people that were in your class or in your school, and that was it. Because you didn't have any way to connect with people that weren't, right?
Yeah.
Where now you can connect with anybody from anywhere, any second of any day, and so you can have. I mean, you have friends from other places.
Yeah, like we'll text them and just be like, "Hey, hop on this video game," and you'll be on playing with them in the next 30 seconds. You can
Right.
just do that.
Right, and we didn't have that.
So I think people's social skills, I think
changed.
in person, they've changed because in person,
Yeah.
they've gotten worse. People are worse at talking to people in person and conveying their emotions. But they're also better at doing it over technology, like over their phone or not in person. Whereas like the older generation can't. Some of them obviously, but like a lot of them just can't grasp the idea of like using emojis to convey your emotions. Like that's how people do it now.
I'll be with my dad, he would just send some, like, or just any older person, they'll send emojis, something. That does not make sense.
That does not work at all.
No, but like in regards to like technology and like, do you think that like the depression and like anxiety levels going up is correlative to technology?
And, like,
I feel like it somewhat is.
Yeah, cause
I
like
would definitely say it is.
no matter.
What's your thoughts on that? Because
I don't know that it is. I feel like it's more recognized now. I feel like there's names for it now. I think that.
That's actually really
Listen,
nice.
young people always have had anxiety and stress, and you add hormones to that, and young people have always had those things. It's just when I was younger, you were just a jerk. Now you have ADD or you have ADHD, but they have names for it now, and we recognize
that makes a lot
that
of
there
sense.
are those things. And so, I don't buy the argument that kids are worse now than they used to be. They're not. We just recognize.
We just know they're worse. Well,
But we know they're worse because we're having the conversation. Before we didn't have the conversation.
That makes a
and
lot
so
of sense.
I feel like, we recognize it, but at the same time, maybe young people are more willing to come out and say, I'm having issues, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Where before they wouldn't. And because you couldn't say those things because it was just not encouraged to do that.
Yeah.
And nowadays it is. And I think that I applaud young people for stepping forward and saying, I need help, or things aren't going that great for me right now. And I also applaud the people that are willing to help them. We have people in the school now that we have social worker. Well, they're not called social workers. I forget. But counselors of some kind, right? We have those types of people in the schools now, and most schools have them. When I was a kid, that was unheard of. If you were not behaving in class, it was just because you weren't a good kid. Where now we recognize that maybe you're not a good kid in class because you have other things going on. And so we try and help with those other things, which has made, again, teaching harder because
You also have to be a therapist, and
well, you also have to recognize that there are reasons for that, and you can't just tell a kid to leave because there's other problems.
And I think the internet also benefits that because now you have completely anonymous, like, help
Well,
or therapy. Like, it's different because
I feel like the biggest problem with the internet, and Dylan and I talked about this last night, is that your generation. I think the example I used with him was when I was your age, we watched Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And we saw Michael Jordan make mistakes and miss shots, and we saw him do all those things. You guys don't watch those things. You guys watch highlight videos. So you never see people making a mistake. And then you get on Facebook, and you never see a person's real life. You see what they want you to see. And you go on all this other stuff that you guys go on. All you see is what people want you to see, them living their best lives.
Yeah.
But are they? And so I feel like that creates this idea in your heads that you have to be a certain way or look a certain way or act a certain way in order to be happy, because you look at that and you're like, well, look at that person. Why am I not happy? There's something wrong with me. Why am I not happy? When sometimes, guess what? You're not meant to be happy all the time.
Exactly.
People just aren't meant to be happy all the time.
We talked about that in the first podcast. Like, all that stuff on there is just a highlight reel. And more than not, the time people posting that stuff are more sad than people that aren't.
Right, because it's just that's all you see is people at their best.
It's not healthy.
And it's not healthy to just see that all the time.
And I think that's completely flipping. I think it's going the complete opposite direction now, where I've seen a video where this overweight girl is like, it started with a fit girl. She's like dancing and all that stuff, and people are just completely ripping on her. Like saying that, oh, you shouldn't be putting this out there, you shouldn't be saying this, like, you're just making all the people that are insecure feel bad about themselves. And then you had a severely overweight girl going there, and they're just nothing but compliments for it. And I think that is just as detrimental as the flip side. Because I think just people need to be realistic. Like, being overweight is not healthy. You're gonna die earlier. It's just not good for you.
Yeah. And I get people need like no motivation too, but like you still shouldn't be dissing on people who are showing off their bodies and
Well,
stuff.
not even
No, but
that,
then,
but
like-
encouraging someone for like. I'm not saying they should get hate because they definitely shouldn't. If that's who you are and you're okay with that, it's fine. But I don't think you should say someone is overweight. You shouldn't say or lie or say that. Like, I don't know.
Be like, oh yeah, you look good. I think it should be like, oh, you're doing a really good job staying on your diet, stuff like that. Like,
Or like, good for you. You accept yourself. That's fine. Good for you.
Like,
but that's
yeah.
not healthy. But that's good for you. Like that's fine.
Yeah, but I don't know that. I mean, to me, it's just about acceptance because it's one thing
Yeah.
if that person's on there saying, "I'm healthy. Look at me, I'm healthy." They're
Yeah.
not saying that. They're
I
not
think
out there saying that. So
some-
why does anybody have to try to contradict that statement when that's not the statement they're making?
Some
If they're
people do
one-
say that though. I've actually I've seen influencers make the comment that skinny isn't healthy and that you can be healthy as fat, which is I don't, you cannot be healthy when you're
Well,
fat.
you
Yeah, if
also, but you can also be unhealthy and skinny too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Right.
But,
Just because you're skinny doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy.
but they do. I've heard people claim and multiple times that if you can be healthy when you're overweight, especially at large numbers too, like obese actually, and that's just not true. And I don't think we should ever push that.
Well, I think you have to be careful about the message that you're sending.
Well, for
right?
sure.
Especially with it being a popular influencer.
Yeah.
You need to be careful with what you say.
On either side. On either side.
100%. Like you shouldn't say you should starve yourself to be skinny because that's just as bad for you as overeating.
For sure.
If
Yeah, I think it's just everybody just accepting, like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About everything that people fight about all the time. Just everybody has a different opinion. Just like you, whatever. That person believes wholeheartedly that is healthy, and you believe wholeheartedly that it's not healthy. Does it let them? Who cares if they believe that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but like you said, until it reaches a level of you are convincing other people that it's okay to do this or to behave this way.
Well, like, say if it's my friend, though, if that's my friend, and I see them not in the right headspace and believe something that's blatantly not true, I think it's kind of my duty to call out that like, not them understanding something.
false thinking.
You know, like, say my friend puts on, like, a really dumb outfit, and I'm like, dude, it doesn't look good. I'm like, and, like, they like it, and that's fine. They can wear the outfit they want to, but I think it's kind of my duty to give my insight.
I feel like it is your duty, but then I also feel like in the case of saying if somebody's overweight and you're like, hey, like, you're getting really big and like it's just like it's gonna be very detrimental to you. I feel like you need to be like if they're okay with that, and they're just like it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, well, I feel like
that's okay. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like
for
that's
sure.
a conversation between them and their doctor. You know, their doctor will determine whether they're healthy or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and because that's the thing is some people are not the ideal weight, but are still considered healthy.
Yeah.
You know, so I
Yeah.
mean, and again, there's extremes, right?
For sure.
Oh yeah, you can't
Well,
be
because you
extremely
can
skinny or extremely obese. Like it's just not healthy.
Right.
Like
Right.
because you can have fit people that have a bunch of underlying health conditions, and you can have obese people that have nothing except being obese,
Yeah.
which is they can offset themselves in a sense.
Yeah, but there's, I mean, to me, there's always been that thing where, you know, you could never say that somebody's fat, right? It was considered mean to say that, but it was never considered mean to make fun of somebody for being skinny,
Yeah.
right? And to me, it just goes both ways. You know, why would you make fun of either one of those people?
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
You know, because one hurts just as bad as the other one hurts.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
For sure.
and again, it's just about acceptance and, you know.
Which I think that ties in with everything. You should just accept people for everything. Because you know when people are making fun of somebody else that they're subconsciously dealing with something or some insecurity themselves. Because if you're completely at peace with yourself, why would you have to go out of your way to make someone else feel worse?
Yeah.
You
Well, because I'm not like if I go to a restaurant or to a store and I have somebody's rude to me that's working there, you know, I don't get all bent out of shape about it. That you know, to me in my mind, I just say, you know what, you don't know what happened. I mean, maybe that person just had a loved one that passed away, or maybe they're having marital problems, or maybe their kid is sick. Like you have no idea what that person that's there is going through that day, and maybe nothing. But in my mind, maybe it's just to make myself feel better about it.
Yeah.
But try to recognize and understand that. Yeah, I mean, everybody has problems. Everybody has problems.
For sure.
I probably can't say it on here, but you know, one of my favorite quotes is that, you know, essentially that,
Oh.
you know, everybody is effed up. Some people are just better at hiding it than others.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
because
very true.
everybody's got stuff. And but I just feel like if we're just more accepting of people and we're more accepting of, I know you guys talked about mental health last time, but we're more
Yeah.
accepting of those things, and you know, and it's just, you can't, it's so dangerous nowadays to have an opinion
Yeah.
about anything, you know, because you can get in trouble for your opinion, and
Sure.
it's just that, it's just your opinion. And
Yeah.
you know, recognizing that I have my opinion and you have your opinion, and whatever makes me feel that strongly about my opinion, if you recognize and understand the fact that that other person that has the opposite opinion feels that strongly about theirs, then if you're not willing to accept that, then you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're willing to say, well, that's all right, we have a different opinion. As long as you're willing to say that, but it's not, it turns into hate right away. Right? If you have a different opinion
Yeah.
from somebody else, it turns into hate, and it doesn't need to.
For me, at least, I feel like it's very crucial that when it comes to opinions, stuff like that, politically, and like really anything, we need to be able to, like you said, accept that. But we also need to have like discussions. Like if we're gonna improve ourselves, it's so hard now to have a civil discussion with someone.
But that's what I was going to say, is because we're
It's
not
so-
willing to accept somebody else's opinion. You
Yeah.
can't even have a conversation about it anymore.
It's terrible. It's
You know?
everywhere. Like you go to Twitter, there's everyone hate,
I
arguing,
know.
and it's just
You can't.
there's nothing. There's no civil discussions anymore. It's very
Right,
very-
like family functions, we have to say politics are off the table.
Yeah.
Can't talk about politics when we're together, because otherwise everybody ends up, why would you fight over it? It's just your
Yeah.
opinion.
And even social media, something like a good calm discussion, that's not gonna get views. You want people yelling and swearing at each other,
Right.
and that's just, it's terrible. It's not good.
But it's so easy to get people to there nowadays.
Yeah, it
Right?
is.
I mean, you can, it's pretty easy to walk in a room and get people fighting nowadays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what's his name? Kyle
Rittenhouse?
Like if you brought him up, like I saw like TikToks or whatever, it's like me bringing up Kyle Rittenhouse at Thanksgiving for the whole
Yeah.
family. Like
Right.
Like,
It'll
yeah.
just, yeah.
why can't people just have the opinion and be like, okay, it's a good opinion, I don't agree, but like
And
Yeah.
even the people that are supposed to be the leaders, like remember when Trump and Biden had their debate, and I'm not saying which one is better or worse, obviously, but they're just going at each other the whole time like they're little kids arguing.
yeah.
But what did I have you guys do the night
When
of
we,
that debate?
I was just gonna bring that up when we watched, what was it, JFK and who?
George Bush? No.
Different time period.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it-
Abraham Lincoln
I don't know,
and Trump.
but it was a John F.
funny
Kennedy
things.
debate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and completely different.
They walk up, they're respectful, they say, like, I hope you're having a good day, like stuff like that, and then they have a discussion, they let the person finish talking, then they bring up their point, they get done, they shake hands.
Right.
Like,
And
it's
that-
just a civil exchange.
And I don't even think it's Trump's and Biden's fault. I think it's more society's fault.
Because they're putting it
That's-
on where they like that. That's
Yeah.
getting the
It's
views.
just how it's became. Like just even the way people are mannered now. Like some people like that say to their parents, like even me, I guess. Like if like I'm guessing if you said some shit that I probably shouldn't swear it, that they've said to like or like me that I said to my parents, you would get slapped probably. Like
To my parents?
yeah, like I'm guessing at least.
Probably, yeah.
Like it's changed so much. Like people get away with so much more and so much more hatred. So like I feel like that's definitely.
Because you know why though? Because I feel like at some point you become desensitized to
Yeah.
things, because it's like even parenting is so much different now, because we have literally no control. Some parents will kid themselves into thinking that they have control, but you really have no control over what your kids see and hear on a daily basis anymore. Because it's everywhere, all around them. You know, I've told you many times when I was a teenager, and to buy the NWA album, I had to trick my mom, because you couldn't just go and get it, right? You had to be 18 and show ID to get an album that had an explicit lyrics sticker on it. Well, when's the last time any of you bought a song that didn't have explicit lyrics in it?
Probably
I
never.
probably haven't listened to a non-explicit song in,
Probably
unless
not.
I was like at a game or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably not. Like the first song you knew by heart was Eazy-E,
The
Boys in the Hood, right? And that was the first song you knew by heart. But it's
I
because
bleeped it out though.
you never swore, you always said beep. But that's the point though, is that you become so desensitized to that stuff that you guys know things at such a younger age than
And I think that's
generations
good and
before.
bad. Because I think now you have kids that are way smarter than previous generations. Kid, not smarter, but more filled in. Like, I think a 5-year-old now,
Yeah.
not 5, I'd say a 10-year-old, probably knows a lot more about a lot more things than the generation before that
But
and
do
the
they
generation
need
before
to?
that.
Yeah.
But do they need to?
That's what I'm saying. It's
Are we
good or
taking
bad.
away? Right? Are we taking away your youth by letting you grow up so quickly? You know.
I feel like just at the extremes of both ends now. I feel like everything's very extreme. I feel like we have a lot of very successful people, but we also have some people that are very pushed down by society and hurt by that. Like, you know,
Explain further.
Like, because like when they said we have all these access to like technology and
Mhm.
stuff like this, we have the availability now to learn all these things, be really good at things. We can learn, like Elon Musk said, you can learn like pretty much anything you want.
Yep.
If you want, you don't need to go to college like that. It's all available. It's all about going about this. So you can have those people on the end of the spectrum and be really smart and learn things, but you can also have all these hurtful stuff. People posting social media, people getting bullied online, stuff like that. And like, and it's very extreme. I feel like now. I feel like this middle ground is very.
I mean, you're always going to
specialized.
have that. You're always going to have the good and the bad.
Oh, yeah.
I think the balance has to come from, and I think it's getting there. I think your generation is getting it there, where you have to have more people living in the middle and not on the extremes. I think, you know, for the past decade, it's been growing where you've had more, you know, you've had this concentration on the extremes. And I think now with you guys, I feel like it's starting to kind of come back to the middle a little bit with acceptance and things like that. And I hope it continues to go that way, but because we have a lot bigger problems, you
Yeah.
know, than those things. So-
In regards to what you said about like you can learn anything.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Elon Musk,
Yeah.
in an interview, he said that he learned astrophysics from reading a book.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't go to college he went to college for physics, but then learned coding, astrophysics, engineering, stuff like that, all just on his own.
Right, no, that's
And
that's
he's one
the
of the
great
smartest
thing.
people
Right.
in that
I
field.
mean, you have access to information that we couldn't have dreamt of. We got our information from encyclopedias.
Yeah.
Right, you guys have access to literally anything you want.
It's crazy.
Now you
It's
can
at your
say
fingertips.
how many molecules are in a carbon, like anything,
Right.
whatever. Like how many molecules are in a bottle of Red Bull or something.
But it's not always better. It's not always better. For instance, when we're taking measurements in class, and you have to, read the dial, and you have to multiply by 0.001. The number of kids that will pull out their calculator,
Yeah.
right? You literally just have to move the decimal 3 places.
Yeah, I saw that.
But
Like,
still, the people will pull out because and here's the thing: it's not that they don't know; it's just because it's so ingrained that anytime you have a question, you go right to that.
I hate
right,
that
you go
too.
right to technology
I
to
mean,
find
like
the
teachers,
answers.
there's always definitely like a negative and positive.
Right, exactly. Yin and yang. There's always yin and yang.
Yeah,
Right?
I go on. What were you gonna say?
Teachers will like always say that. Like, I won't like name any names, but like, I'll be doing a worksheet and I'll ask like a question. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, just look it up on your phone or your Chromebook." I'm like, I feel like it'd be much easier if you just told me the answer. Like, if I can just look it up and maybe even like find the whole worksheet online. Like, why would you not just tell me that answer? Like,
Well, also it comes to like, when you look something up, you get words of just like what it is. But when you have someone that can actually respond to you
Yeah.
and you can explain the difficulties that you're having with something, say that you can actually get feedback. That's completely different from just words online. That's it's just black and white.
yeah.
But can you guys even imagine where you'd get that information from now?
But what do you mean?
If you had no internet and you had to do a research paper, would you even know where to start?
Yeah. What did you guys do?
Yeah, if they
Where would
took
you
away
Where
the
would you
internet-
start? Do you
Did
know?
you grab a book from the library or what? What did you guys
Yeah,
do?
you had to go to the library and check out books, and sometimes, you'd have a stack of books this tall to write one research paper.
That's crazy.
And
That'd be
nowadays,
so hard.
you don't. Nowadays,
I just want to look at
Yeah,
I just want to look
somewhere
at
at one point.
Nowadays I can literally look up a summary of a book or like.
right, but that's where where technology is catching up is because for a long time it was copy paste, copy paste. Well, now universities have the technology to where they just automatically put that paper
plagiarism.
You're right through a program, and it tells you if it's plagiarized.
And
or
if you
not.
like cheated in high school and stuff, can't they like take your like what's it called? What you get when you graduate college? Diploma.
College is a degree.
A degree. Like, can't they, like, take that away if they catch you, like, cheating, like, even, like, 20 years later?
I think I've heard something like that.
I don't think anyone would try that, because why would you, like, look into that?
I think if it's an honorary degree, they could do it.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, not if it's an actual degree, no.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a question about, like, a trade school. Like, is a trade school basically just, like, you go to college for one very specific thing?
Yes.
Like, no flexibility to it, but, like, it's for, like, very short time, right? Like,
Yeah, it's 2 years. Most trade schools are 2 years, but it's for a specific trade. So it'll be plumbing or electrical or welding or
Yeah, 'cause,
mechanic or anything like that.
So I went to Wasabi College or whatever, and the carpentry class or whatever, they're talking about how there's like 70 trades involved with it. So that's like 70 different fields you could go into after you took that like degree of carpentry or something.
Yeah.
Huh. Would you have ever done like a trade school when you were in college? I mean, or would you rather have just had that flexibility?
I would have rather had that flexibility because I had no idea
Yeah.
when I was that age. Now some people know right when they get out of high school exactly what they want to do, and that's what they go and do. And great for them. That wasn't me. I didn't know. So.
Because I heard about like a trade school and I was like, kind of seems like people just want like some sort of a degree, but they also don't want to go to college for 8 years.
Yeah, but here's what I think. Here's what I think all young people should do: is when you think that you know what it is you want to do, you should find somebody that does that, and you should ask them if you can spend some time with them, because I think you really have no idea. Like, you know, and even especially the more glamorous trades, right? Like an attorney. Like, go and spend some time with an attorney, because you better like to read and you better like to write if you're going to be an attorney. It's not what you see on TV where you're just in court. You know, that's not what it is. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so if you think that you want to be a plumber, that's great, but you should probably go and spend time with a plumber and see what their day-to-day life is like. And do you want to do that
For the rest of your life.
Right. Do you want to do that forever? You know? So, and not that you don't have to do anything forever. You can always pivot. You can always change. But sometimes your road can be made easier by having a degree in something else as well, you know. But everybody should do that. You should always know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure. Like, I was like, because I watched Jordan Peterson, who's like a psychologist, you know what he is?
Yep.
I was like, this looks cool, like, I like this stuff. And then I like watched videos of him talking about like the extensive research he has to do and how many books, like, and you don't think about that in a lot of careers. Like, you just think about the glamorous side, the service level, but a lot of stuff, like you said, is just hours and hours.
Right, but Jordan Peterson, you see Jordan Peterson now.
Yeah.
Doing so you want to do what Jordan Peterson does now, which is give lectures and debates and things like that. Well, for every Jordan Peterson, there's thousands of professors that are teaching that but are not giving speeches and packing auditoriums full of people. Right? So there's the grind that goes in before you get to that point too, you know. And some people never get to that point.
Yeah.
The majority never get to that point.
And about like psychology, have you ever like what are like some like, I don't even know like the wording for it. Like we talked about like Taoism on the last one. We talked about Stoicism. Stoicism. Like what are like other things you've like learned about somewhat of like psychology? Like different, I don't know.
I have
That's philosophy.
No background in psychology or philosophy. I mean, I just have my own thoughts and opinions on it. But you know, one quote that I do like is from Jocko Willink, who I don't know if you know who that is or not.
Oh,
I like that guy. And you know, one of the things he talks about is you are a combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So essentially what he's saying is it's very important who you choose to spend your time with, right? And those 5 people are very influential in your life. You know, because you hear that all the time. Oh, they're hanging out with a bad crowd, right? Well, there is some truth to that.
It's very true,
right? There's truth to that.
Like Jordan Peterson talks about that, like when you're first like younger, like from ages, like I don't know what age, but like when you're younger, your family is who you're around and like that, so you like mold and become. But eventually, when you're like in your teens, stuff like that, you're becomes who you hang around as friends, and that becomes like
Right.
overwhelmingly what you become.
And that's very scary as a parent.
It is very scary.
Because there is that day and probably most parents can remember when it happened, because it's a really hard day when you realize, and this, no offense to anyone, when you realize that you're not their hero anymore. Do you know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
and that's just natural. It's not, there's nothing, nobody did anything wrong. It's just natural for that to
Yeah.
happen, because your world expands, right? Once you start going to school, your world gets a lot bigger. And then once you get into the workforce, it gets even bigger. And so those things change and evolve over time, and that's okay. But it is very important that you know who those people are, and you know, understand that they do have an influence and an impact in your life and your choices, right? But that's not a reason to make excuses either, you know, because it is your decision who you hang out with. It's 100% your decision, right?
For sure.
This is gonna big switch on topic, but what, you know that that like sound circle? We have a bunch of different
Yes.
frequencies. What is that
Oh
called?
yeah.
That's just a frequency circle. Yep.
This is a whole deep dive into something if we got into this.
No, I love this topic. I'm a big believer
I gotta
in
go to the
frequency.
bathroom. I really have to go to the bathroom.
I have to pee very
Okay.
bad.
Kind of difficult.
What we were just about to bring up was that there are two videos involving frequency and like how frequencies of sound and just particles in general, everything's vibrating, which means everything has a specific frequency. So, two examples. There's one video where they put a frequency at like, they're passing red blood cells and white blood cells and cancer cells through like a vein essentially,
Yeah.
and they put a specific frequency into it, and it'll keep the red blood cells, white blood cells going here, but it'll cause the cancer cells to veer off and just completely separate from the other ones with just a specific sound frequency. And there's also another video where they put a specific frequency directed at a patch of cancer cells,
Yeah.
and nothing happens for a little bit, then they start vibrating very aggressively, and then they just explode,
So you're saying
effectively just
basically-
destroying the cancers.
you're saying basically we could eventually or could cure cancer using frequency.
Using sound.
Because what I was saying was that we have really and we were just barely getting started into that, but we have really no idea. Like, we're going to be using a Chladni plate in class. I don't know if you know what a Chladni plate is.
Is that what they
But
have
it
the
makes the
sand?
plate vibrate.
Yeah, so you just put different frequencies through a plate, and you just sprinkle sand on the top, and you put different frequencies through it, and each frequency has its distinct shape, like a snowflake, but each frequency is different. And I 100% believe that frequencies impact us in ways that we have no idea. We
Because
don't know
when you
that
play the specific frequencies in that plate, there's the good frequencies and the
Yeah.
bad frequencies. The good frequencies make very
Beautiful
symmetric,
shapes.
beautiful shapes, and then
Yeah.
the bad frequencies just make nothing.
Everything's distorted and
distorted,
It's like
looks
yin
bad.
yang.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think because if it does that to sand on a plate, what do you think that's going to do to your body? Because it's the same thing. Your body has cells that are vibrating, and
Right.
everything's vibrating, even air.
Because it's energy. It's just
Everything's
all
energy.
Everything is energy.
Well, all atoms are moving.
Right. Everything is energy. And frequency affects the movement of that energy.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause frequency is just the amount of waves.
Right. So
Something.
I think it has a much deeper impact on us. And because I wonder, there's times when your ear will ring or something, and because there's certainly frequencies that we can't even detect that are all around us all the time, right? We can't hear them, but they're there,
Well, even
Yeah.
light's frequency,
right?
because light has wavelength and light is moving at a specific speed.
Right, but
Yeah.
you're starting to see sound therapy and light therapy, and they're starting to
Yeah.
use those as modes of therapy. So there is something to it. I feel like, in years to come, I think they'll have more understanding. But at least they're studying it now, and they're trying to kind of
Understand it.
dissect it a little bit.
But getting back to like good bad frequency, there is actually a point where, because music, I think naturally, like in music theory, there's the chords that sound good together, notes that sound good together, and when you play the notes that sound good together, it makes a good frequency and a good frequency. But then when you make notes that go against each other, it's a bad frequency. That's why it sounds bad. But so like 428 hertz, or around like one of the good frequencies, that's what music naturally is. But then at some point, the music industry, for whatever reason, and I know this to be like 99% fact, the music industry made the standard frequency for music to be put out to people at was 440 hertz, I believe, which is a bad frequency.
Can you explain me what the frequency of music? What do you mean by that?
Because every sound has a frequency.
Yeah, it's just like a sound output of like coming out without fuck. I can't speak. Whatever source is coming out of, like that's just like the rate is coming out of that.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by that? Okay.
And it makes it. They made it standard to have it come out at 440 hertz.
Okay.
Whereas 428 hertz is.
I'm looking because I have a tone generator on here. So this is 440 hertz. Is 440. And what did you say? 428?
Yeah.
I remember. And that's 428 hertz. So there are. You can go online and you can actually take a quiz.
What's the time at right now, man?
Okay.
Oh my god.
Come on over. You weren't invited.
I think.
Okay, special guest out over.
So, just real quick. So you can actually go online and because there are people that really think that there's something to it, but you can go online and you can take a quiz and it will play the same song at different frequencies and it will ask you to pick which one you think sounds better, right? And at first, because I've done it, and at first when you do it, you're really trying to listen and pick out a difference. But then when you stop trying to do that and you just calm down, take a deep breath, and really pay attention to the way it makes you feel instead of what you're actually hearing, because it's too minute of a difference to pick it up. I feel like I don't think that we have the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. But if you just consciously pay attention to what it makes you feel, then most of the time you're going to pass the test and you're going to pick the frequency that is not the frequency that is generally used.
Yeah.
Right? Have you taken that quiz?
I have not. But
You should go online.
What frequency did you pick? Or did you?
It just gives you the two choices. It gives you like the 428 or the 440, but it doesn't tell you which one is which. It just, you go through and you pick the ones, and then it will, at the end of the quiz, it tells you, you picked 8 out of 10 that were 428.
Do you know which one you got?
I got the 428, yep. After I started to just pay attention to how it made me feel instead of trying to listen for a difference, because you really can't hear a difference. And that's kind of the point, right? But I think it's more powerful than we know, right?
And I think eventually that is going to be because even Nikola Tesla said that science will make more progress in 10 years or 20 years than it has in the last 100 years once it starts to study non-natural phenomena.
Yep.
So, or non-physical phenomena.
Right.
Which means sound and light and stuff like that. And even there's a bunch of stuff, like you can go on a huge rabbit hole of it. Nikola Tesla did everything that involved numbers with a 3, 6, or 9. And he said that
our whole universe is designed
the key
that
to the
way.
universe is in the numbers of 3, 6, and 9. Because they're very, I would say, like harmonic numbers.
Right. But kind of the point is, as smart as we think people are nowadays, at some point, because you look at it now and you're like, look how far we've come since prehistoric man.
It's crazy.
In prehistoric man, they thought that guy that invented fire is a genius, right? But essentially now, in the future, somebody's going to look back at this and they say, can you believe the guy that invented an electric car was a genius? Because they're going to be so far advanced at that. And so, like, to me, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see where it gets to. I just hope I'm alive long enough to see the really cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like we're nowhere near it yet. We are nowhere near full understanding.
Yeah.
Not even close. There is so much around us that we have that, put it this way, we don't even know what we don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
you're saying.
We don't even know what we don't know right now. But someday we will. You know,
Because
someday
we don't know even close to all the things we know about. Like the ocean, we only know about
What's the
like whatever,
percentage?
like maybe like 50% of what's in the ocean.
Yeah,
If
I think
that.
it's less.
It's like
Probably less.
We know
it's
about
7% or
we know more about space than we do about the ocean.
And that's like
I don't
crazy.
think it's about space. I think it was like about the moon.
The moon, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah, I'm not
space-
talking about the universe.
Yeah, space is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just insane that to think, because eventually if we don't blow ourselves up or die of whatever as a species, we'll be on different planets. Probably like before 50 years, I would say we're going
That's
to be
crazy.
inhabiting different planets.
Yeah, maybe. But you brought up an interesting point. If we don't blow ourselves up,
And I think that's a
did you
very
know
real
that?
possibility.
Well, because you guys have all heard about honeybees, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
That if honeybees go extinct, the planet is in some serious trouble. But of all of the species that are on Earth, humans are the only one that if we went extinct, the planet would benefit from that,
Yeah.
right? If ants or bees go extinct, we're in trouble. But if humans go extinct, the planet would actually improve over time.
Which I think
Makes
is
sense.
terrible because humans don't take a look at themselves.
But we're
that way.
right. But the glass half full side of that argument is that we recognize that and we're trying at this point,
Yeah.
right? There are efforts to clean up the ocean. There are efforts to clean up the air quality.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing something about it at this point, at least, you know.
Well, the thing is, I don't think we're deliberately just trying to make this world.
No,
worse.
I don't think that's the thing is we did.
No,
It's like we're just conscious beings, so then it's like eventually, like when you get further and further, I feel like anything, just like eventually when you become conscious, you know all this stuff, start making new things. Eventually, it's gonna start
Certainly,
hurting.
right. Certainly, when I would like to think anyway that when plastic was invented, that person didn't foresee that it would become the problem that it has become, right?
Yeah.
You know, the same thing with, I doubt Henry Ford saw the emissions problems that we have
Yeah.
from automobiles.
Yeah.
He didn't foresee that coming, and so that's always going to happen, I think. And so as long as we're conscious of it and recognize it and trying to fix it, then I think, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
I guess you just always hope that it's not too little too late,
Yeah.
but
That'd be crazy to think that like maybe like all our kids can maybe be living on Mars. If that could.
Or even us.
Think that's
You gotta
possible?
think we're gonna be alive for hopefully another 70 years.
Yeah.
You gotta think how, because in the last
Who knows,
14
we might be
years,
alive for even longer. Who knows?
right,
if there's,
because
like-
remember, it's exponential growth,
Yeah.
and so as far as it's come in your first 16
well,
years,
in 14 years, we went from the first iPhone, which was terrible compared to what we have now, not even close. 14 years ago,
yeah,
right, to what we have now, virtual reality, where we can have treadmills that you can actually run in virtual reality,
Yeah, that's
in 14 years.
true. Because everything just builds off each other. Like once you learn one thing, it opens up a new gateway, and it opens up new gateways, and everything you can learn just builds off each other.
right, because life is a series of doors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I've explained this to you many times. Life is it's nothing but a series of doors, and you can choose to open some doors if you want to, or you can only go in one room and stay in that room for the rest of your life, or you can, there's within each room there's more doors, and you go in a room and you can go back out of the room and you can go and pick another room, and so I think that science and technology is the same thing. It's just you gotta open the door.
Yeah.
You gotta open the door and see what's inside.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
What are we thinking on time here? You want to go longer or what?
I think it was good.
Yeah, I think that's solid time.
Don't look at me. I don't know.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
zoning out a bit.
It does get hot in here.
It does. get
Oh
really
my
hot.
god.
I don't need
Like
that.
when you guys opened that door for a little bit, I was like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah,
I walked
that,
in,
my
like, leave it
attention
open.
span is not that long.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just had that Red Bull. Like, I'm just like shaking over here.
Oh, we
like,
need to get that mud water sponsor. I'm feeling good. Drink some mud water before this.
A little mud water.
Yeah.
Oh,
That is or what?
Yeah.
That was fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
That was
Of
fun.
course, thank you for coming. Thank you
Huh?
for talking.
definitely the
Anytime.
guest is like definitely a move to have guests on here. It's like
It's a
so
lot
much-
more natural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I looked. I like would accidentally look at the camera because I like forgot it was there. I'd be like, oh shit. But, like,
Yeah, but I think
Should we
kind
turn
of
off?
keeping it open. I like the way you guys just kind of keep it open. You just let it flow from
Yeah.
one thing to the next. Like you don't have. I mean, you might want to jot down top, but it's cool
Yeah.
how you guys just kind of let it flow and organically just move into whatever. You
Yeah,
know.
we first started off very choppy and asking you questions, but then towards the end we got very natural.
But I
It's
think
more of an
you
introduction.
but you have to be
Yeah.
prepared to do that.
Yeah, no, you need to
because
do that a bit.
in case, like you did a good job at when there was a little bit of because you can't have dead air,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be prepared to kind of
Yeah.
spur that
oh
conversation.
yeah, I
forward.
definitely like forgot like 20 questions that I would have had because just like other topics were going on, but like.
But it's crazy how time can fly when you're just sitting here
Yeah.
having a conversation. It
Mm,
goes,
yeah.
It's been like an hour and a half.
Has it really?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what
What
I've
time
never
is it?
Does not feel
What
like
time
it's
is
been
that
an hour.
speaking?